Hi, Samantha. Thank you for coming into the Bold Blueprint. I
Hi,
appreciate you
Mary.
being here. And I wanted to thank you for taking the time to come in here and share your story. I wanted to ask you, how did you got where you are today? Because if I understand correctly, you help women discover themselves, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. So, yeah, I'm a psychic medium and I also coach women into discovering their intuitive abilities. I do have some male clients, but for some reason, I think the spiritual stuff that's very mostly female dominated. So, yeah, so that's pretty much what I do. Yeah. And my personal journey actually was the catalyst getting into the space.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
tell me more. How did it all started?
Yeah. So, it actually started. It started when I was going through a marital breakdown back in May 2023. I'd been with my husband at the time for 9 years. We'd been married about 4 years. And I remember I was just in a very dark place. I wasn't feeling my happiest, wasn't in a job I liked. And it was a pretty dark. I was having pretty dark thoughts. I thought maybe it was better, I'd be better off not being around. And I started going for things such as meditation, sound baths. You know how, for those of you who are not very familiar with sound baths, they play those crystal bowls and all those things, and started going for full moon circles. And also I went for a Reiki healing session, and that actually helped me, probably helped me a bit more than, for me personally, I just found it more helpful than seeing a psychologist. But again, that's just my personal journey. That's just what helped me. And it was a couple of weeks later after I started dabbling into this stuff where I found out that my ex-husband was having an affair. And it was actually some two female friends who found out that I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. And one of them saw him on a golf course with another woman. And it was her intuition that said, something doesn't feel right. Something just doesn't feel right. So she took photos, sent it to another friend. Another friend sent it to another friend who was living in Australia at the time who knew I wasn't happy. And they showed me the evidence and I felt relieved. I mean, I was teary, but more like relief, like, oh, I don't have to continue living this way. Yeah. And then, of course, I took a couple days to get the information, and then I decided to leave him. So while going through, grieving the marriage, I think the first 4 months were definitely the most difficult. I think it was a lot of anger, definitely, and the first 2 months, and next 2 months was a lot of crying, which is expected when you're going through that. And then I started playing around with tarot cards. I started doing practice readings for people for fun. It was just a good way to get my mind off the divorce. And people would love to put their hands up and go, me, me, me. And I was posting on Instagram stories and I found I had a knack for it. Then I started picking up other things such as learning how to do mediumship, which is pretty much the ability to connect to people on the other side. And I started practicing psychic readings. And then, I eventually set it up as like a side business just for fun. I didn't think this would be something I'd get into full time. I set this up, I think it was early 2024. And by the end of 2024, I decided just to take a leap of faith and go into it full time. And I haven't looked back since. Yeah. So, in summary, this marriage, I think the breakdown of the marriage was really a gift to me because now I'm in a position where I can help other people. And it's interesting because the types of clients I've been attracting are women who have gone through something very similar to me. So it's just very, very interesting the kind of clients you tend to attract are similar.
Wow, that is incredible. And I am amazed by your story because I can't imagine going through that and having the ability to realize that there is so much more out there of life and you finding your way to that because he might have given you a blessing in disguise, basically. Was there any moment that you know that that relationship wasn't something that wasn't going to work? Or did you know that it wasn't not obviously he put a big dent into it doing what he did, but Did you know beforehand, or was he somebody that you always knew you were gonna spend your life with?
So what's really interesting is that even before we got married, so when we were engaged, I remember it was the year we were meant to get married. I knew the marriage wasn't going to last, but I knew I would be okay. But it felt like something I had to go through with. It just didn't make sense, but I just trusted it. But I knew I would be more than okay on the other side. So, and I went through with it. But there were definitely signs, little things. I think when you're with someone for a very long time, I mean, he spent a lot of money on my engagement ring. It's a beautiful engagement ring, by the way, nice big rock. So he spent 10,000 Australian dollars on it. Yeah, so you would think, no, why would he do that? Because he spent all this money on our beautiful ring and we're spending money on the wedding. Why would anyone be silly enough to do it? No, they are still silly. So, um, yeah, there were signs such as I remember I stumbled across an Instagram account he had on mine because he told me he deleted his social media completely. But I thought, oh, maybe it's an account he's not using. I just let go of it at the top of my head. And I remember I saw some lipstick stains on his underwear, and I thought maybe that was a red pen. There were little signs. But the craziest thing was that I had dreams over the years of him running off with another woman like, for years, and I thought I was like, "You know what? I'm making it up," and, I'm sure you would have heard of these cases where, the girlfriend tells the boyfriend, "You cheated on me in my dream. How dare you?" And the boyfriend goes, "Oh, I'm sorry for cheating on you in my dream." So I thought maybe it was one of those, but no, that was clearly a sign from spirit telling me repeatedly, "This is happening," and the way I found out about these multiple women was through someone else. They somehow managed to get it out of him, and yeah, that pretty much lines up with my dream. I don't have physical evidence of it, but I definitely feel it, and it definitely makes a lot of sense now thinking about it.
That is insane. I Your body was telling you to go through this experience. Your mind,
Yeah,
I feel it's like your soul was telling you you needed to go through
mm,
this experience, but it was
yeah,
protecting you and reminding you that this was just something to get you to the other side. And it's kind of incredible to realize that. So you said you started like going to sound baths and do readings.
yeah.
How did you get in tune with that part of yourself that was opening completely to you after the divorce?
Yeah, so I think I sort of just went along with it. It was kind of like a little breadcrumb trail. I just sort of went along with it. So ever since I was a little girl, I could hear voices, but I used to dismiss it as being something, you think you're hearing things, and I never told anyone about it. I used to hear a lady call my name, sounded like my mum, and I'd look around and, my mum's not there, no one's there at home. Yeah, and during the sound bath, I started hearing voices come even louder. I got attuned with Reiki. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Reiki, it's a type of energy healing where you use your hands. You can also send it distantly. You don't have to be physically in the same room. And you have to go through an attunement process as well. And I remember once I got attuned with Reiki, that's when the voices start getting louder. And then I eventually found out that this is actually the psychic ability I have. I went to a psychic and she said, "You have this gift and your mum has it and her mum has it." Yeah. So, and then spoke to my mum and turns out she can hear things too. So we both thought we were going crazy and just never told anyone. So it's quite funny that way.
That is incredible. It's a generational thing that you discover at the same time as your mother. How was learning about that together?
Yeah, that was quite interesting actually. Yeah, she's always been quite intuitive. She would very psychic. She would randomly say things out loud and it would always come true, which is so interesting. So yeah, she's always been very intuitive. She just always common sense, but I'm like, no, it doesn't feel like common sense. So yeah, it's definitely something I've inherited from her. And turns out although, my grandma's fortunately passed away, so we don't know the details of it. Yeah, but she was quite open to the sort of spiritual stuff from what I'd heard. Yeah, but yeah, it was just nice to know that, yeah, it's something I suppose this experience showed me it was an unlocked gift. But yeah, it was just nice to know that, yeah, something my mum has as well.
you weren't alone going through that journey. You had somebody learning about their abilities at the same time as you. I can't imagine your relationship just gets stronger.
So she's not delving into it, playing around with it, but yeah, she was quite open. She's quite open to it. But yeah, she's not gone to the extent of, pressing to be a psychic medium and all that. But we have had a bit more, I think, since bringing awareness to it, we've had a bit more spiritual activity at home, just more visits from my grandparents, which are her parents. So she said there's been a couple of times where she's felt them. So one night she felt her mum next to her, and once she felt a tall man bending over, looking at her, and she immediately knew that was her dad. Like she just knew, and she wasn't even scared. So yeah, it's interesting. I think once you bring that awareness, then you sort of these things happen a bit more. Yeah, but it's nothing scary. It's all just love.
That is amazing. It's finding your way through hardship into something that can
Mhm.
actually guide you into finding bits and pieces of your history, but also yourself without knowing it.
Yeah.
So how did your business started? Because you went through your divorce, you started
Mhm.
uh, dabbling with your psychic abilities and learning about all of that. So
Mhm.
how did your business start?
So I remember I had some friends going, "You should start it off on the side." I was like, "No, I'm only going to. It's only a hobby. I don't see myself doing this full time." And I remember Psychic did tell me, "You're going to be doing this full time a year from now." I was like, "No, I don't believe that. It's a bit, it's a bit out there coming from a corporate background. Working in a corporate." I was like, "No way. This is just a hobby." And then unfortunately had an incident at work where there was a bit of a blow up, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to set it up. I'm just going to set it up. I've got nothing to lose. So I just set it up on the side, and yeah, so I started doing tarot readings, and I started looking into things like past lives and doing psychic readings, and eventually I added on my mediumship. So it's more like more things added on as I went on, and it was just a side thing. But for some reason, I knew the next time there will be something happen at work, that will be my time to take the leap of faith. And true enough, of course, I was right because I'm psychic. So, in November later that year, 2024, I decided to take the leap of faith, and I decided to go all in. And then this famous wellness studio here in Malaysia, they reached out to me to ask if they wanted to represent me. And I got started getting more clients from them, and I started doing more workshops from them. So yeah, it was just amazing. The timing of it just couldn't have been more perfect. Yeah. And yeah, so that's pretty much how it's evolved. And then eventually I moved into psychic mediumship coaching as well, which is actually my real passion.
So what exactly does it entail? Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so with my coaching, I do pretty much I teach people to do what I do, such as learning how to communicate to spirit, doing mediumship, learning to do psychic readings, and there's many ways you can do it, such as learning how to read oracle cards, for example, or reading people's energies, or there's some, or doing things like photo readings. One way you can practice reading people's energies is by getting a photo of them and picking up what you can from photos. That was actually a really good way um, for how I developed my psychic and mediumship abilities. Yeah, so it's just teaching them how to do what I do pretty much. Yeah. So, and something I do believe everyone is psychic. I don't think you just, there's sort of people born with it. So, there actually is a difference between having psychic abilities and having mediumship abilities. So psychics pretty much, which is I actually thought it was all the same thing. Um, so psychics pick up on the energies around them. They can pick up on the past, present, future. They can, and even tarot. So with tarot cards as well, they would pretty much they can pick up on the energies from you, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're connecting with like dead people. They're picking up on your energies. Whereas whereas mediums, they pretty much connect to, yeah, it's pretty much direct spirit communication. So you may be able to maybe not physically see them. I'll be too freaked out if I could see them, but you might see them in your mind's eye. You might get a knowing. Or you might hear voices, which is what I can hear. Yeah, so it really depends how they come through. So all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums, and that's because mediums can also get the information from spirit, but you access it through the various psychic senses. You might have one thing that's stronger than the other. So it's kind of like the five senses. You know, you're seeing, feeling, smelling, and all that. It's kind of like that, but yeah, just in a more psychic sense, that where it's not in the, actual physical realm, just more ethereal.
It's amazing. I've never heard of it in the sense of how other people deal with it, or not deal with it because it's not the right word, but like our intro into this world. So
Yep.
it's amazing to see how it all connects.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a gut feeling and like you're listening to your body, it's also like everything that is exterior and it's coming to you. And you said that you had that since you were a kid. Is it other things that you could see or that you learn as you're growing and learning more into your abilities that you went through when you were a child?
So as a kid, I remember seeing a lady in my mirror, and I remember seeing shadows at this when I was 19 at this old Melbourne jail. So I was going there for like it's turned into sort of a little tourist site. So there's no prisoners kept on site. But I was back from the 1800s, and you could just feel the energy. I'm sure I'm sure you would have had that where sure we all would have had that at some point. You walk into a place, you're like, oh, there's something a bit creepy about that. That's your spidey senses kicking in. So that's your psychic senses kicking in, I think, which we all have, I believe. Yeah, you could just feel it was really eerie. And yeah, I remember seeing shadows on the wall, and I thought maybe it was someone carrying a backpack, but it was like those back in the Victorian era when ladies used to wear their hair in a bun. You could tell she was a working class woman. She was carrying a baby on the back, and there was like a little head there. I looked, and no one was carrying a backpack. So I was like, okay, that's a bit creepy. No one had their hair in a bun as well. So that was really creepy. So I've had some incidents like that. So I wasn't one of those people who, would dismiss it. Like I was open to it because I had experiences with ghosts and things, seeing a lady in the mirror, yeah, just random things, but I never thought I'd be a psychic medium. It was only something I discovered that it's an ability I have like maybe almost 3 years ago. So it all happened very fast getting into this journey. It was very rapid.
That is incredible. I can't imagine growing up and like I see people that talk about things they've seen, but it's like, oh, I went to the forest and this happened, or like I was in my grandparents' house and this happened. My mom will will think I'm crazy. My family think I'm crazy when I talk about this. My grandparents have a house. Um, and this house, I always felt like there was a bad, dark energy. I was the only one feeling that way when I was in that house. And for whatever reason, I didn't feel at ease. Not that I didn't feel safe, but I didn't feel at ease. I felt like something was there. And one time it was like Christmas, New Year's Eve, and I was sick. And my uncle had left me there with my grandma, and she was taking care of me, and I could not sleep. And I really thought I saw somebody get into the house. I saw a shadow get into the house. I had that feeling that somebody was coming with a knife in that house. The bedroom in that house, the stairs were right in front of the door of the bedroom going up. I called my uncle at 5 in the morning. I was like, you come here. You take me out of that house. I cannot stay here. And I grew up in that house. My grandma's lived in that house for years, but I cannot stay there long. I just have this aching feeling that something doesn't want me there. And I feel incredible that you can sense those things when you're a kid and you realize that later on you realize that you had those abilities because I always had that gut feeling or just like that house doesn't like me.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's definitely your spidey senses kicking in. And kids are a lot more sensitive than adults. You know how they're seeing animals and children more sensitive. That's definitely true. So I would not discount that creepy feeling because if you feel it, yeah, there's definitely something going on. Yeah. So that's definitely your spidey psychic senses going, something's not right here because you're obviously feeling weird energy.
I will send this part of the episode to my uncles. Tell them, you see, I was right. I was right. Something
Yeah.
doesn't want me in that house. Um,
No.
I wanted to ask you, so before this tumultuous change in career and life, how did you enter the the labor world? Because if you didn't know that you were going to be a psychic,
Yeah.
what what were you doing at the time?
Okay, so I actually come from a human resources background, so very different, very corporate background. So, the stuff such as doing recruitment and the, performance management and the not so happy side of HR, investigations, was that disciplinary conversations, all that redundancies, all that, you know, not so glamorous side of HR. Yeah, so it's very serious. It's very factual. It was the kind of job, you've got to have your facts, right? Especially when you do investigations, you need proof, this and that. And it was very factual. In saying that, it was actually, I did enjoy, being in HR. I think especially working with managers, working with people and helping them come to solutions. That was my favorite part about it. And I think it also taught me how to have difficult conversations because now it is a skill I think you learn to master, and definitely because I've always been a softer person, it kind of taught me how to be able to put my foot down and push back, which has definitely helped being a business owner as well. There are times you do have to push back on people, especially when something's not quite right. You have to learn to push back. It's definitely taught me some communication skills because I have do get clients going, "Oh, is my ex going to come back?" I guarantee I'm pretty sure every psychic medium would have had that question from at least one client. Yeah, I mean, I personally think they're exes for a reason, but everyone's story is different. But there are, of course, for me, the way it's taught me to spin things like I don't see him coming back, or if he does, it's not going to be great. But you could look at a different timeline, see someone else coming forward. So yeah, there's always possibilities here. But yeah, I did come from an HR background, which did help with my communication skills and sort of the way I sort of run my business being a bit more structured. So it has had its advantages there. So still the same, just the way I run my business is still very structured, such as the way when I was working in an HR background, still dealing with people, but probably in a much more softer context versus having sometimes not so great conversations.
But it kind of give you that idea. I was gonna say HR. I mean, obviously, you have
Yeah,
like that crazy side of HR that it's very like
yeah,
cutthroat because you're
yeah,
there for the company and not the people.
yeah,
But
yeah,
also, you are there for the people. You are like
yeah,
the link in between, and kind of like getting into mediumship. You are the link in between people on this side and people on the other side. That is amazing. I wanted to ask you, what would you say to Samantha that needed you the most? Maybe Samantha that was getting into this relationship um, that changed her whole world upside down, or that was in the thick of it after her divorce and didn't know what was going to happen to her.
yeah. Well, I think if I told her what would be happening, I don't think she would have believed it. I mean, I had a psychic tell me, "You're going to be doing this full time a year from now." I was like, "No, that's not going to happen." Yeah, and I remember I did see a psychic before I met this other one. When I was feeling quite down, when I was on a visit to Melbourne, Australia, to see friends, but a lot of friends there. And I remember she said, "You will be teaching." I was like, "I can't imagine me teaching. What am I going to teach?" I just had no idea. I was like, "Oh God." I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I think I would just tell, just keep an open mind, keep going, because I think every part of this process, going through the breakup, the divorce, and I think even all my life experiences being with my ex up to now, there's a reason this all happened. And I don't think I would have changed anything, to be honest. Yeah. So, but it's just that it's all led up to something. So it's all, yeah, it's all amounted to something, and it's not a wasted experience for sure. Yeah.
I love that. If you had something to say to somebody that is skeptic
Mhm.
about mediumship or
Yeah.
being more in tune with that part of
Mhm.
themselves, what would be something that you would say to them?
I'd say definitely explore it, definitely stay open, keep a curious mind. A good way you can start to develop it is doing meditation. So that actually helps. You don't have to meditate like a month for hours on end, or 20 minutes on end. I have a very short attention span. So, and you don't, trust me, you don't need to be meditating for hours, just a couple of minutes a day. It's more about when you meditate, people think, oh, and I used to be one of these people as well. Like, you don't think about anything. It's not that. It's about being in the moment, just observing. The sound, keeping your eyes closed, observing sounds. Like, can you hear? Maybe for example, it's raining outside. How does your skin feel? Are you feeling cold? And sometimes some people, when they close their eyes, they can see colors in their mind's eye. Yeah, so you might be able to see that. So just observe. It's just observing, because that's how it developed for me, especially with my clear audience. I started just hearing things. I used to, and it's something I remember I used to, because I think I was telling you earlier, I come from a mixed background. So my mum's from New Zealand, and my dad's Chinese Malaysian. So I would hear different accents. And I remember one of the first things I heard, apart from this lady calling my name as a child. I remember I heard two men with very distinctive New Zealand accents, and they were talking. It sounded like a radio show, and I remember that came out of nowhere. And I started hearing more voices and things. So, and of course, because I come from a mixed background, it makes sense. I'm going to have different accents. I've got the Chinese Malaysian accent, which I figured were people from my dad's side, the Kiwi accent from my mum's side, and then of course she's got Irish, English, Scottish, and Welsh heritage as well. So sometimes I would hear those voices, those accents too. So I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So they come on my left side, whereas on my right side it would be other people's loved ones in spirit. So sometimes I'll hear things as well come through, but I was able to develop my other mediumship senses. So you can definitely develop it on your own, but if you wanted to develop it more quickly, I actually got a psychic mediumship coach, and she was able to help me unlock my clairvoyance. So that used to be my weakest psychic ability. And she said, we'll develop that. I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be able to see. And she proved me wrong, because now that comes through a lot. So when I connect to people's loved ones in spirit, they'll show me things. I'll see things in my mind. So I'm not seeing things physically. If I did see things physically, I'd probably be screaming too. So I will be freaked out. I'd rather hear them than see them. So, yeah, but you do get that knowing and feeling as well. Just like, remember how you were saying you went to that creepy house. Yeah. So that's definitely another psychic ability. You can get a feeling. Sometimes you can get a feeling of how someone's passed, or how someone's felt as well. Yeah. So, yeah. So you can definitely develop all your psychic senses. So, yeah, it's a skill you can all absolutely develop, as long as the biggest thing I think is, and the best advice my coach gave me is, don't think, just trust. Like, don't think, because none of this stuff actually makes sense. It really doesn't. And it probably isn't meant to. But yeah, once you just trust, that's when you get more information coming through. So just trusting yourself, trusting what comes through, and yeah, and meditating as well, just observing the sounds around you. That's how it all works for me pretty much. Yeah. Just some little tips.
That is amazing. I mean, I have always been more of a spiritual type of person more than religious type of person. So, intuiting the senses that something is there have always been in with me, and I feel like you've explained exactly that. And I kind of like relate to that part of myself a little more now. I wanted to ask you, is there a quote or a phrase that you always go back when something is happening to your life, or that you just think of and you're like, that's one of the quotes or phrases that helped me get through it?
See, probably can't think of a quote that comes to mind, but I think anytime I've gone through something something difficult, I just tell myself there's better days ahead. I think, yeah, there's always better days ahead. Like even if I'm sad about something, I'm generally quite a positive person, so I usually am able to get through things. I am able to get through things. I think just knowing that there's something better ahead. So, for example, let's say, this I just see it as a redirection, saying this didn't work out because there's something even better for you. And I love that saying actually. I think it was called rejection is redirection because there's something even better for you. Like what's meant for you will find you. Sorry, those are quotes actually now that I think about
No, that's fine. It's your brain is like clicking on new things that you already
it.
had there. It's awesome. It definitely is. And I definitely appreciate the reminder. Definitely. I needed something like that today. Rejection is redirection. And sometimes I love the saying it says things happen for you, not to you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So if you think, maybe you're seeing someone, for example, and I've had that and I thought, oh, sucked, he didn't want to continue, trying. But then I realized, looking back, you're like, I'm glad it didn't work out because no, that wouldn't have been a great relationship. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes when you look back in hindsight, you see, oh, I'm so glad that didn't work out.
It was meant to happen the way it did for
Exactly.
better days ahead.
Definitely.
Samantha, thank you so much for being here. This conversation was amazing and it definitely opened my eyes on so many different things that I did not expect. Um, I wanted to ask you, where can our listeners find you?
So you can find me either on Instagram or TikTok at Samantha the Clear. And you can also check me out on my website, which is www.samanthatheclear.com. So if you're interested in booking a reading or if you're interested in uncovering your psychic mediumship abilities, I put more information there. Yeah, so that's where you can all find me.
Thank you so much. Samantha, thank you for being on the Bold Blueprint. And for everybody else, I will see you next Monday.
Thanks, Marie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Bold Blueprint. If you enjoy or connected with this episode, I would love for you to like, comment, and rate the show. If you thought of someone during this episode, follow your gut and share it with them. That's how we can reach the person that needs this conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to the episode, and I will see you here next Monday.